two things that I was thinking really quickly. One, there was an incident on the Temple Mount today, and they found pipe bombs. And, of course, there have been previous incidents with the Temple Mount, and also just this past year, for lack of a better term, has been Meshuggah in terms of Israeli politics and all that. And, of course, there are those who are jumping the gun and celebrating Rosh Hashanah early. There are those of us who are waiting until the spring, and right now it's Arab Yom Teruah, but for those who are celebrating the New Year early, Shana Tova. And anyway, though, so whether you're celebrating the New Year early or whether you're about to reach the middle of the year and look back on all that's been going on and all that, in terms of the Temple Mount and just some of the, I guess, other minutiae and what have you that's been going on, I think that now would be a good time to look back and realize that part of the reason we're not getting the Temple Mount back is because we're doing the same thing that we did when the temple fell the second time, which is Sinat, Chinam, which is basically baseless hatred. And it really doesn't matter whether you're messianic, non-messianic, rabbinical, Karaite, what have you. Point being, the worst part is we're letting Netanyahu and Agudat Yisrael engage in Sinat Chinam, and again, like I said, that's part of why we're not getting the temple back, because the Sinat Chinam is dividing Israel so badly that, of course, we're not a Bet Yaakov Yahat, and of course we're not going to be able to stand up against those who continue to want the mosque on the Temple Mount. We're in this position where, yeah, we might go one way, but we're divided 7 ways, and part of that reason is because, well, we divided ourselves 7 ways instead of saying, okay, you might believe in Yeshua as the Messiah, you might believe in Schneerson as the Messiah, you might believe in, for lack of a better term, God knows who is the Messiah. The point being, we're not going to be able to get the Temple Mount back until, first of all, we tell Netanyahu and Agudat Yisrael, enough is enough. Mashpik ze mashpik. And so I guess there's that. And then the second thing is, in terms of, as I said before, in terms of quote-unquote Rosh Hashanah and Yom Teruah, it's like the thing about, for lack of a better term, and I saw a tweet on this, the wearing white after Labor Day. Okay, just because everyone else decides to not wear white on Labor Day doesn't just... Okay, my point is this. Everyone might say, okay, let's not wear white after Labor Day, though there's no explicit, for lack of a term, anywhere that says you can't wear white after Labor Day. It's the same thing with Yom Teruah and Rosh Hashanah, except there is something explicit, and it says that the new year is actually supposed to start in Aviv, and of course the Rosh Hashanah that was in the fall, of course, came from Babylon, and of course you get that in the Talmud Bavli for that reason. And I mean, and this is the thing too, where people are going to say, well, you know, isn't the, you know, that whole minutia about Torah B'Peh and things along those lines. The point being, first of all, wherever you find the information, and ultimately all the credit belongs to God. And so you don't even have to look for, you don't even have to, for example, look at, I mean, it does help to have those sources who will point things out in terms of when Rosh Hashanah really is. But the point being, if it says it in the If it says it in the scripture and you've used the source that'll point out those things to help you figure out what the scriptures say, and you're not imposing those sources on the scriptures, you're letting the scriptures confirm or deny those sources, you're going to quickly figure out, okay, so Yom Teruah is the Yom HaKodesh that day. Rosh Hashanah is an Aviv. So if you're going to celebrate Rosh Hashanah, you might as well do it in the spring. And the thing is, too, part of the reason I address this, too, is because there are people who will say, oh, you're such a hypocrite, because, like, you know, you say that, oh, if you're going to do things right, you got to do things right, and, you know, you talk about celebrating this and this and this, but you're celebrating pagan holidays like Christmas and Easter and this and this and that and this and that. There's a fine difference. The difference is that, for those of us who are Messianic anyway, and these are now the people I'm addressing the ones who, whether they are Messianic or not, the ones like the so-called Hebrew Roots movement and the other folks like that. I do understand that there are Messianic Jews who are, for lack of a better term, severely misguided because they're in the Hebrew Roots movement and stuff, and they've let themselves get caught up. The fine difference between celebrating something like Christmas and Easter is you have something, in terms of Christmas and Easter, there's nothing explicit about it in the scriptures, and just like with Hanukkah, which, if you do your research, actually may have been a pagan holiday at one point, although that became redeemed. The difference between holidays like Christmas and Easter and Hanukkah is that, you know, there was no, for lack of a better term, there was no, I guess, Torah or otherwise to not prescribe way to do it. But if you're going to talk about, oh, you got to celebrate the Moadim and Torah and stuff, I mean, if you're going to talk about doing something, if you're going to do something, at least try to do it right. And don't go acting like everyone else is pagan for, you know, doing, I guess, this and that. Like, don't go acting like someone's pagan for celebrating Christmas and Easter or even Hanukkah. If you're not going to celebrate Rosh Hashanah in Aviv as opposed to Tishri. And also some people say, oh, well, you know, you're pagan for using the months like, what's that? You know, September and October and this, because they're all the Roman names, and then, like, also January, this, that. Well, again, if you want to talk about a fine point there, a lot of the month names that were in the, for lack of a better term, a lot of the month names that are, even for lack of a better term, in a lot of Karaite calendars also came from, Babil. And the thing is, too, those also, the month names that the Babilim used, some of them somehow ended up in Tanakh. Nisan, anybody? So, the thing is, if you're going to criticize someone for doing something that at one time was pagan, or had been at least co-opted by pagans, if you're going to criticize someone for doing something that was pagan, or is allegedly pagan, or what have you, make sure that you're celebrating the, for lack of a better term, the Torah prescribed Moadim correctly, or at least try to do everything you can correctly. So, I'm just saying, for lack of a better term, keep your own nose clean on this one, or keep whatever clean on this one. And also, if you're gonna criticize those for, if you're gonna criticize people for celebrating this and that and this and that, I mean, really look at your own heart and really try to see what you can gauge from their hearts, because by their fruits you will know them. And, you better make sure, for lack of a better term, that you're a tree who's bearing good fruit. And as long as you can see that, for lack of a better term, as long as you can see that someone, for example, who's celebrating Rosh HaShanah in the fall, although of course they're jumping the gun early, as long as they're not hurting you, and as long as they're not, telling anybody, oh, you have to celebrate the new year in the fall and this and this, just go ahead and wish them a early Shana Tova. And it's that same thing where it says, and again, this is primarily to Messianic Jews like myself, and the ones who, even though they're not Messianic, the folks in the so-called Hebrew roots movement and all that, like it says in the scripture, if you're causing your brother to stumble, that's where it's sin. Otherwise, who are you to judge another servant? And that's the whole point. So, I guess that's just my rant about that. By the way, I'm just really tired and stuff, and forgive me for that. And also, by the way, I was thinking too, when I was talking about the sources and stuff, I wanted to be really careful, because some of the sources that I learned about, the Talmud and stuff from what have you, some of these sources, let me put it this way. First of all, remember, I was not raised knowing that I'm Jewish. And secondly, as I said, ultimately everything comes back to, you can't impose the sources on the scripture. You have to, confirm or deny or what have you with scripture itself. You have to, for lack of a better term, view everything through the lens of scripture. Some of the sources I don't want to name, because I don't want to promote them, especially when they have been hostile towards Messianics in the past, and some of them have also been hostile towards certain non-Messianic groups, and I'm not going to promote sources that are hostile. Now, if a source says, well, I'm not Messianic, though I tolerate Messianics, or, well, I'm rabbinical, though I tolerate Karaites, I'll point to those sources. But when a source is outright hostile to Messianics and outright hostile to, groups who don't fit certain lines, I'm just going to be like, okay, I don't want to promote them.